Question for Rich. Back in the day, it was just DF and another outfit called Lens of Truth. Do you remember Lens of Truth?
Of course.
Yes.
They've since faded into obscurity and DF has gone from strength to strength. What do you think DF has done right over the years to keep growing? Do you have examples of proud moments where you felt vindicated for certain editorial decisions? I'll quickly answer this, but I do want to open it out to my colleagues. Basically, the issue is, first of all, it's not just about the numbers. The classic analogy I've used in previous directs is, if somebody tells me the 0 to 60 of my car, it's interesting information, but it's like a fraction of the whole story. You've got to dig deeper. You've got to do better than just providing raw numbers. And I think that's the bottom line. You've actually got to build a rounded picture of the game. And also, there's been the concept that platform comparisons aren't really that interesting anymore. So where do you go from there? You've got to actually come up with something a bit more interesting, a bit wider, a bit more all-encompassing, and fundamentally more interesting. John?
Yeah, I mean, that is, telling stories is the key, I think. Like, presenting why is this game interesting, whether it's a platform comparison or just a showcase, or discussing its new technology, or just gushing about a game that you like. That's all, that stuff's important. And I think one of the key factors as well is that you've been very open to basically allowing us to cover the types of things that we want to, right?
Yeah.
Like more traditional outlets in the past were like, oh no, you got to cover these games for sure, and just like assign games out to people, and you would get some choice, but it was a little more strict. But here it's like, well, what do you want to cover? What is interesting to you? And you make a video based usually on that. And I think that makes the most enjoyable content, because if you're just covering something you don't care about, then it's kind of hard to do something that the audience can get excited about, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Fundamentally, if you're not interested in the content, why should the audience be?
Right.
Yeah.
That's where the retro stuff comes in, right? Because like that was something I wanted to do, and it's fun to do, and we managed to make it into something that people enjoy.
Fully.
So, and I enjoy doing it as well. So that's great.
I don't
know. What do you think, Alex?
I think everything you all said, and it's just like making sure that DF has people that have like niches in it, like John with retro, me with PC,
that's
Rich
true.
with like overarching in theory hardware videos, like making sure that we get like personality into the channel there, where people, like when they hear the voice coming up in the video, they have a sense of already what like the objectives of the video are, what kind of takes might be in there, so you can get a following at that point in time. If it's just how do you say it? Anonymized? I don't know. Anonymous. If it's just an anonymous person there just writing an article, or very plainly speaking into a microphone without much of that personality coming through, then you kind of lose a bit. And it's not as just interesting to watch. Like if I think about the people that I follow and watch YouTube videos from, they tend to have very strong personalities, which makes it enjoyable. So I hope that comes across in our content more these days than it did in the past. And that's something that I think that the channel is definitely growing in as well too.
Mm-hmm. The other thing I think is just you've got to question, if you are data driven, you've got to question the data. And sometimes, if your data's wrong, you've got to go back and look at it and retest and get the right story. So being right, you can't be right 100% of the time, but fundamentally you've got to, be able to back up what you've come up with a narrative, mm-hmm. right? And to make sure that you've got the right story and to hone in on the right angle as well. And I think the thing that I'm sort of most proud of, it's not really specific moments. It is simply the case that, platform comparisons were once the bread and butter of Digital Foundry, but, Series X and PS5 are essentially interchangeable at this moment. You have Series S that adds a bit more spice. Sometimes there are some interesting last chain comparisons to factor in, but that's not really the core basis of what the channel is about anymore. And our mission statement is to basically discuss the state of the art in gaming technology, past, present, and future. which is far more all-encompassing than, talking about however game A runs on console B. I think that's the bottom line.